Welcome everybody. Dharma Punx Seattle. We're going to be talking about one of the Eightfold Path, wise speech. This starts as a backtrack, wise intention, wise view, that has to do with the wisdom factors of the Eightfold Path. And wise speech is about the ethical aspect of the Eightfold Path. Often, wise speech, I feel, is one that is ranked of lesser importance on the Eightfold Path. We put a lot of emphasis on mindfulness. We put a lot of emphasis on correcting our understanding. And speech is something that, despite, we speak thousands of words a day, takes less of a precedent. And the point of bringing wise speech into a spiritual practice, I think it's easy to kind of sort of lump this in as something that is controlling or just overly religious, but I think it's a direct reflection of our internal space more than trying to look at it as what I should or should not talk about. And wise speech being, like I said, a reflection. If we can't really do a whole lot, in my opinion, because speech is something that is just so quick and so automatic, that maybe we can catch something, shouldn't have said that, but to actually be super intentional about our speech, even if we planned. How many times have we planned what we were going to say going into a conversation, and it doesn't matter because it's never going to go exactly the way we expect. We have to be able to be rooted in a sense of wise view, wise understanding, to hopefully accurately portray what we're trying to say, and as a way to create less suffering. I reflected a lot on this topic over the past week. I feel, despite it being about speech, it can be a little difficult to talk about, but in my work and counseling, I feel as though I don't know what the percentage would be, but maybe a good 50% of what people talk about is conversations that they're having, conversations that they need to have, and really how bad people are at talking. It's just kind of perplexing that despite how much we spend talking, we often don't know how to speak the truth. So from a Buddhist perspective, there's a couple of categories that highlight wise speech, speech that is truthful, speech that is non-divisive, speech that is non-harmful, and on some level having an understanding of what frivolous speech is. And I'll delve more deeply into those later, but for the question that I want to pose to everybody today is around what speech are we avoiding what speech are we avoiding right now? Those difficult conversations that we need to have. I feel as though in my own practice with wise speech, it's a direct, there's a direct correlation to self-abandonment. I constantly in my practice have betrayed myself through my speech or the lack of speech that I was willing to, the things I was unwilling to say because I was afraid, because I was scared of losing people. And so I think it's a really important topic when, you know, beyond just like, you know, this is good, this is bad, this is how you should be honest, but as a framework of how do I show up in a way that's authentic and not self-abandoning. So there's your question. What speech, what words are currently needing to be said right now? So let's group up together, and then if you're sitting in on the live stream, go ahead and meditate or journal on the topic. So we'll sit for 30 minutes. Finding a comfortable way to sit that is upright. Relaxing any tension in the belly, letting the belly soften and hang. Letting the shoulders hang from the spine. Drawing the lumbar in. Letting the jaw relax, the muscles around the eyes, the tongue. Maybe letting out one longer exhale, scanning the body for any other places of tension, and letting those places relax. Connecting with the breath. Following it in and out at the tip of the nostrils or in the rise and fall of the nose or of the belly or chest. Letting go of the temptation to plan for dinner, to plan for tomorrow, to plan for the rest of the week, to plan shopping lists, to create ideas. Give yourself a break from the thinking mind. Letting go of the urge to review recent difficulties, conversations. There's nothing to figure out right now. Give yourself a break. From the anxiety and stress. The mind will wander all on its own, and so just bringing it back. But if you find that there's a mental block or mental resistance to staying with the breath, investigate it. What could be so urgent? Inclining the mind, inclining the heart. Is there a way this breath could even be pleasurable? Sometimes reflections on the body, reflections on our fragility, can allow us to enjoy this breath a little bit more deeply. letting the breath sit in the background, taking a step forward into the foreground awareness of bringing to mind that speech that hasn't been said, or a speech recently that was difficult to say. And linking this to our intentions, linking this to our understanding, investigating what made it difficult. Was it fear? Fear of impermanence, fear of anger, allowing ourselves to get in touch not with the specific words, but the difficulty on why it was difficult to speak. Maybe even taking it further to, when did I first learn? Maybe you were young. Maybe you weren't. And compassion being always the appropriate answer to suffering and pain, turning toward that pain, that younger version of yourself, and saying, I care about you. I have always cared about you. And as a commitment and determination, I will always care about you. Again, turning toward that younger version of yourself, or whatever version of yourself. I care about you. I have always cared about you. And making that commitment to the wound, I will always care about you. Now, having spent some time sending yourself care for past pain and past suffering, bringing to mind your difficult person, or maybe they're not difficult, but the conversation that needs to be had. And through this care that you've cultivated for yourself, just imagine no words, standing next to them, in front of them, in that care. Noticing any emotional sensations. Noticing any difference in fear. Maybe going through other people that have been challenging, or relationships that need maintenance. As you exhale, letting the foreground of the meditation fade away, returning to the background, the breath. A practice in investigation and engagement and letting go, coming back to the present, coming back to the breath. That it doesn't need to be belabored. As Ajahn Sumedho says, and now it's like this. Give yourself a break. Let it be like this. Let it be still. Talking to y'all a few before the meeting started, and I mentioned that I watched Wuthering Heights recently, and again, sort of reflecting on the topic, being like, are all like good romance stories just a failure of wise speech? Like, what would like a good like romance novel or a good romance like cinema look like if there was just like wise speech the entire time? I don't know. So one of the, going through the different factors of wise speech, the most obvious probably is honest speech. And in terms, there are conditions in the practice when it comes to speaking the truth, because I think all of us have had the experience maybe of being on the receiving end, or, you know, have dealt some truth to people who, but it was really fucking rude. You're like, that was honest, but that was rude. So the truth should be kind. The truth should be well timed. That part, I think, I know that like can be a personal pet peeve of mine, is when people want to like tell you their truth, and you're just like, bro, it's like 1 a.m. Is it the right time to be talking our truths? Like, I need to go to sleep. And so, you know, thinking, is this the right time? When we're speaking the truth. So, is it kind? Is it the right time? Does it need to be said at all? I think that's a really important thing to consider with the truth. Is I think as we often, people will swing to the other direction when we're trying to develop a spiritual practice around living our truth, speaking our truth, being more honest and authentic, that we feel like we have to tell all of the truth, and you don't have to do that. And so learning that discernment of not having to justify your existence, not having to justify the way we act, that we can just do stuff and let people deal with the discomfort of us doing stuff. That's one of the things that I notice in people who are highly traumatized, is a big need to explain everything. That simple, concise sentences are not enough. That we need to have paragraphs of explanation to justify our words. And, you know, I think it makes a lot of sense, because so many of us have been so deeply misunderstood that we feel like if we just kind of tell the truth in just the correct way, then they'll understand. And unfortunately, some people are really committed to not understanding. And so it can be really just a waste of a lot of effort that we don't need. And really, I think it comes as more of a comfort to us than it is to the other person. I feel like a wise person will read those paragraphs of text, or that long explanation, and be able to see that it comes from an insecurity. That the security looks like clear, concise, direct. That we don't need to offer an explanation. Sometimes we do, but and you know, I see this a lot I saw this a lot in my early recovery and my early mental health journey, that it robbed me of my ability to take responsibility as well for my part in many situations, because I was so concerned and so wrapped up in being able to explain, you know, why something had happened, that I wasn't willing to really take a look at what my part in the situation was. And I feel in my own practice, the more that I have committed to speaking the truth of a situation, without having to have all of that explanation, letting myself be uncomfortable with it's okay to have been in the wrong. It's okay to look at my side of the street and to just own that. I think for a long time, I had been victimized so much that it was really easy to continue to kind of rest on that narrative, and so it's been a really important aspect of my own relationship to the truth and telling my truth that I try to explain myself less, try to be less defensive. So, is it wise? Is it kind? Is it timely? Those are important factors when looking at telling the truth. I forget who says it, but some Buddhist out there says you don't always have to tell the truth, but you must never lie. And I like that. I like that. As a person who lies by omission, who, if I'm going to lie, that's going to be my tendency to lie. I have to use that very carefully. It's not just like the escape hatch of like, well, now I'll just never tell the truth. Because, I can remember that being a large part of my own healing journey and relationship to the truth as well, was if they ask me directly, I'll tell them the truth. But if they don't ask, I'm not going to tell them. And most of the time, that typically just hurt me more than anybody else. Going back to our truth being kind of the self-abandonment, or where not speaking the truth can lead to self-abandonment. In the meditation, I think we can get so caught up in what words we need to say, what words we need to speak, how to say the things so that way we get the desired outcome. I think that's another big hang-up is like, how do I say this so that way this person doesn't get angry, so this person doesn't get defensive, so this person doesn't leave. And we should look at our tone and look at these types of things. I can't tell you how often I'm like talking to clients and they'll be like, yeah, my partner cussed me out, and I'll be like, well, how was your tone? And I was like, oh, I called him that bitch, and I was just like, you were soliciting defensive responses by calling them that bitch. So definitely looking at our tone if we're looking for responses that are hopefully wise, but being able to go to that as go to that truth as a place of care for ourselves. The self-abandonment aspect of other people's feelings, other people's emotions, that person not leaving, becoming before our own wants, needs, desires. And so, like I was saying, rather than focusing so much on the specific words, coming back to our own sense of care for ourselves. Because I think that the more we root ourselves in from that space of care, from that space of I deserve, the best in the situation. Maybe it doesn't quell the fear completely, but that's what they talk about with courage. It's not the lack of fear, it's being with the fear, doing it in spite of, doing it despite of the fear. And sometimes I feel like having that injection of, well, I'm going to do it for that little version of me. I'm going to speak that truth because a little version of me fucking needs that. In my own, and that's, in my own relationship to speaking the truth, that's where I tend to always go back to is, there's this younger version of myself who spoke a truth. And that truth was devastating. It caused huge disruption in my family. It made me the black sheep of a family. And I wasn't protected from that. I had to kind of endure that on my own. And so, going back to where did we first learn that our truth was scary and dangerous? That it was something to hide. I think is such an important and radical part of this path. We talk so much about that it's about suffering, and it is. It's about ending our suffering. But, isn't so much of that also coming back to the versions of ourselves before they were crushed by the weight of so many fucking awful things? Things that were, I think, intrinsically there. Other aspects of wise speech. They also talk about non-divisive speech. This one I feel like can be pretty tricky. I heard a teacher say, I attempted to practice all my speech without saying anything about anyone else, and 50% of my speech was cut. Or anybody who wasn't there. Attempted to only speak about the people who were currently in the room, and by not speaking to the people who weren't there. And I feel like it can be such a interesting practice. I've never done it myself. I definitely have loved in the past some good work gossip. That was delicious and juicy. But now I work by myself, so I don't get to have that. But if I think it comes back to what is our personal intention with the practice. It's one thing to say okay, I'm going to try not to gossip about certain people. I'm going to try not to cause too much division in my speech, but what is your goals for practice? What are your intentions? Are your intentions to create less harm in the world? Are your intentions to, not cause harm to others? Just because somebody's not there doesn't mean the harm isn't being caused. And I think this can be on the small, sort of micro levels of our personal relationships, but also, broader into our political, where, it's not so much about not being able to be critical of those things, but asking my own self, are my intentions in my practice, in my spiritual practice, to not cause harm? And does my speech reflect that when it comes to that? So that kind of dovetails into the harmful speech. The other aspect goes to frivolous speech. They have a super fun word for it in Pali called sampapalapa, which I just feel like is so satisfying. And, again, not a discouragement to not connect with people. I think it's so obviously so important to just be able to talk about the movies or the weather, not taking it so fucking seriously that you're just, but everything is energy, right? Whether it's our actions, the things we do throughout our day, or it's our speech. One of the things that I had a mentee a couple weeks ago realize that she will sometimes just call me in a crisis because she wants to connect, and she's like, I'm gonna try to just text you when I want to connect and not have a crisis made up about it. And I was like, yes, fucking nailed it. And so, looking at, sometimes the way that we create like little mini sufferings because we're just lonely and we want to connect to somebody else, and just being like, I've done this too. I can remember with my own mentors being like, all right, what shit do I need to stir up in order to have this conversation? And just being like, oh, I can just connect with people. And so looking at that, because, in terms of frivolous speech, not only is it, depleting on our own energy and, sometimes creating unnecessary suffering, but it depleting other people's energy. How often are we aware of if our speech is becoming taxing to the people around us? If we've taken up too much space or eaten too much air out of the room. And so an invitation, just to, again, not take it so seriously that we become like mimes or something, but coming back to that level of intention, if this is the ethical part, it's also the areas that we create cause and effect, that we create karma. What kind of people do we want to be known as? Again, speech being the reflection of our inner world. It's also so much of what people see. And so, think about how many situations you've been in, and you get your first impression just by the way somebody talks, what they talk about, and really taking that as a spiritual practice of how do I hope I'm being perceived in the world, and letting our speech reflect that. So, I hope through this specific topic that I have spoken to the importance, that it's not it's not as, like mindfulness practice, wise speech, that we can hopefully start to put them on some even footing, on levels of importance in terms of practice. Because again, it's just such an important thing to cultivate here, I think, in the Sangha, is to practice it with each other. I was talking to someone recently, and I asked them, what it would be like if, they shared with their mom that they wanted to talk on the phone more, or wanted to connect more, and they were just like, "Oh, that would be weird." I was just like, so fascinating, the way that so much of our culture is conditioned to non-truth. And so in a world of so many non-truths, be a refuge for people in the fucking world who just want the truth. At least for me in my own practice, it's hard. It's hard as fuck. But I hope, that's something that I can aim to be for other people, as a person that they know that they can rely on for the truth. So, questions, thoughts, concerns? Fuck your concerns. Go ahead.
The idea of frivolous speech kind of immediately reminded me of like kvetching, which I don't think it's like an inherently bad thing, but like the idea of just complain,
Mm-hmm.
just kind of fun. But I did have to actively decide to stop doing that at one point in my life, because I was doing it so fucking much that I recognized myself as a complainer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh God, this is not I am not enjoying my own company anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm certain that I'm seen that way as well by others. And it's like, yeah, there is limits to having fun with words. And again, the energy that putting out, that was just the word that came up when we were talking about frivolous speech. I'm like, yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. And another tough one to balance of, that the importance of in willingness to be vulnerable and share what's difficult, but then also asking ourselves, is this important? Is this like an important difficulty to share? Or is this, and that's usually where it's like, oh, this is a complaint. Yeah. One of the things that I didn't say, that I do think is important to say, is the speech. We talked about kind, but it doesn't have to be nice. And I think that's a really important differentiation to discern, because I'm not so much worried with this group specifically, but it's something that I feel like a lot of spiritual people, Buddhist, get stuck in, is like, well, I gotta be nice. I gotta be nice. And like that totally hampers like your ability to speak a fucking truth. And so just labeling that discernment, making that discernment between nice and kind. Nice sucks. Kindness can sound uncomfortable. We're allowed to make people uncomfortable.
The nice and the truth Venn diagram don't overlap very much.
No.
I feel like if in some of those moments where it's something you really need to say to advocate for yourself, right, the kindness is directed towards yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's primary.
Yeah.
And that is not always perceived as kind by the person receiving it.
Right.
But if they're actively stepping on your foot, and you tell them to stop stepping on your foot if they don't like that, them perceiving that as unkindness, their own foolishness.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's something that I think that you're totally right, is not being able to control people's reactions. You know, and that's not a measure of a lack of kindness, that if they have a shitty ass reaction to the truth, it's like, oh, you made me feel bad. You're making yourself feel bad. I didn't do anything.
I think basically everything in this whole path is like, how to not be perceived as a fool.
Yes. How to not look like an ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one. We talk so much. It's hard to make that ratio be a solid percentage of wise speech. I've been working on wise speech with driving. I'm having a difficulty getting to the right view and intention there. But I have been correcting myself, rather than I'll say the asshole thing, be like, fuck you, ass, you know, whatever I say, and then I'll be like, oh, we're gonna correct ourselves and just state what they are doing. Driving slow. Confused person. It's been a very entertaining way to try to have wise speech in the car.
Do you ever yell it out the window?
Confused person.
Would be a lie.
It's kind of like when you give the thumbs up instead of the middle finger. It's way more offensive somehow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I've gotten very furious truck drivers when I've blown them kisses. Angry.
Try to gentle parent them.
Yeah, exactly.
You got this.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
I believe in you.
So I've stopped rolling the window down to yell at people, so that's good.
You know, it's baby steps.
It's the culture.
Look, we don't use the horn. We scream at people where
Yeah.
we're from.
East Coast.
Yeah.
I use the horn downtown all the time. It seems like it disrupts whole city blocks. Seattle's so passive. Somebody hears a horn and they think it must be an emergency, not just like,
I don't
you can't park, it's really discreet.
The classic downtown park in the middle of the street.
Where else are you supposed to park?
Valid.
Yeah, there's gonna be a park wherever you want.
You just kind of like
Entire lanes turn.
Okay.
left.
Okay. We are still streaming, so I am going to say we table this conversation to talk about Donna. If you would like to donate, please do, so we can pay the rents and do cool stuff. It's a $5 to $10 suggested donation, but not necessary to donate if you aren't able. Yeah. Let's go ahead and dedicate the merit. May any goodness that came from our practice here today be spread above and below, to the seen and the unseen, to those being born and to those who are dying. Thank you.